I'm Julie Barkey with Session Update. Focusing on more than closing the achievement gap, the Education Policy Reform Bill was signed into law earlier today. It tightens the early literacy program that was passed last year by the legislature, and it also allows students to take some college courses beginning in 10th grade. The governor signed that bill into law, as I said earlier this morning, and we'd like to air that news conference for you at this time.
Excellent example of good bipartisan cooperation and the legislative branch, the executive branch working together for the benefit of Minnesota school children and teachers and administrators and everyone else. So I'll let those who are involved in the details explain more of it, but one especially, I think, poignant story is Matt Reuters from Winona contacted us, as well as legislators, about the fact that through a quirk in Minnesota law, if a teacher joins the National Guard, his substitute salary is deducted from the differential that he or she is paid for their time in service. So Mr. Reuters' case, it cost him $11,000 to serve his country, and it's just, it's so wrong, and it was fairly late in the session in the timing of things before at least I was aware of that. And I really want to thank all the legislators who were involved for expediting that through the process and doing everything necessary to get it into the law. And that was just an example of how people work superbly well together. And so I'm going to start with Senator Olson, chair of the Senate committee, and then I'm not going to dare decide who speaks next. So, but you're all welcome to, and I'll let you decide that. So, Senator Olson.
Thank you very much, Governor. Well, thank you very much, Governor Dayton, for signing the bill. We have worked very hard and worked well together in getting this achieved. Yesterday, I received word from the Education Commission of the States that once again we've got a Minnesota first, and it's in this bill, and that's enabling 10th graders to sample a career tech course in a college setting. So it expands our post-secondary enrollment options opportunities. And Joe Nathan here from the Center for School Change is one that brought that idea forward, and it's been modified a bit along the way, but nonetheless, it's aimed at the idea that we need to build better bridges between our secondary and post-secondary system, particularly for young people who are not necessarily attuned to learning entirely in the academic mode. And so this will give an opportunity for them to have a taste of that and hopefully stimulate their continuing and graduating from high school, because our graduation rates aren't what they should be. But I appreciate that. Senator Stumpf and I have been working on this at the K-12 level for some time, and we got a real day brightener from some data that came from the Department of Education called the Perkins Core Indicator. And with the data that's available, this was for 2010-11 school year, it was learned that any student who has taken a career tech program in high school, the equivalent of an hour a day for a year, about 200 hours, had an over 97% graduation rate. So it means they're staying in school, they're getting their academics as well as their start in a career tech or exploration area. And I think that's exactly what we are concerned about building, both through the opening the door at the post-secondary, but also doing some things at the secondary level to recognize academic learning that occurs within career tech programs for credit, and also changing the formula, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to augment a little bit more some of the added costs that have perhaps been a factor in some of our career tech programs disappearing at the secondary level. So that is one of the key areas that we had focus in. We've also had another innovative work from the Ed Evolving group at Hamline University on using our site-based law and modifying it to allow for individualized learning schools. A school can organize around individualized learning, and so that the young people can proceed at the pace that they're ready to go. And I think we're going to see that that's going to have an impact nationwide as well. We've made some modifications in some of our last year's work. Our literacy work is getting nationwide attention. We have made some modification to the literacy incentive aid and basing it right on the number of students that are reading proficiently at 3rd grade or making better than a year's growth. It's a little fairer than I think what we had before, so we've made that modification and made some changes in the early graduation scholarship program as well. So those are some of the things. I appreciate what the governor has raised in terms of some of the issues that have affected teachers and veterans and a lot of things. This is a rich bill with lots of provisions, and I'm going to let some of the others share ones that are close to their heart. But I think we've been able to make some great accomplishments in this second year, and I was absolutely delighted with the bipartisanship that led to our having a unanimous vote in the Senate, and obviously the signature of the governor. So thank you very much for your interest in it as well.
Who'd like to be next?
Should I be next? I'm pleased to be here for 2 reasons. One, I actually lobbied for post-secondary options for high school students before I came to the legislature. And now that I'm leaving, I get to be here when we broaden it and have more opportunities. I'm happy about that. And secondly, it's my first signing pen from a governor, first and last, of my own party.
I'm Representative Bob Detmer from the Forest Lake area, and I was an educator for 34 years at Forest Lake, and I just recently retired from the military also. So I serve on the Veterans Affairs Committee, and when the information came from me from Matt Reuter from Winona, he gave me a call, and I understood what he was going through because I was mobilized for 20 months after 9/11. Spent many months away from my job teaching and coaching and over in Kuwait. So I understood the whole situation, the Minnesota pay differential program that we had, and I was working on some language to put forth, and then I got a call from the governor's office, Governor Dayton's office, I'm sorry, and from the military affairs, and they had some better language, and we put that together, and then I turned it over to Representative Pawlowski, and he would like to talk about the situation at Winona.
For those of you that don't think that anything good happens in the public schools, I've been in the public schools for 37 years at Winona Senior High, and during one of my prep hours, the then president of the Winona Education Association, Bruce Ramsdale, came up and said we had a problem. We had one of our teachers who had been in the military, and it had cost him $11,000 to do so. This is the only area of public service where if you go on active service, you pay to do it. We began working on language, and this was over a year ago. The current president of the Winona Education Association is here, Janet Lumpmers. She then picked it up, and we began working on language. And as you know, it takes time to finesse language. So it took us almost a year to figure out what would work. And I want to thank Representative Detmer. He went through 2 different changes in what he was working on, and we actually had 2 places for this bill. It's a little strange having it in the education bill, but Mr. Reuter is an educator. We also had a backup in the Veterans Bill. But again, this also shows you that everybody serves their country. There's no exemption. Public school teachers serve their country. And this case, only a public school teacher, until this becomes law, had to pay to serve in the military. So I want to thank both Mr. Reuter for what he did, for the Winona Education Association for bringing this forward, and then also for the governor for his support. This wouldn't have happened if Governor Dayton hadn't said, it's going to happen, I want it in the education bill, and that's how it got there. I just offered the amendment on the floor. They did all the great work. And I'd be remiss, too, if I didn't say we also have one other first in Winona. We have the current Minnesota Teacher of the Year, Katie Smith, is here, and she also plugged the bill for us also. So thank you very much, Governor, and thank you, Representative Detmer, but particularly thank you, Mr. Reuter, for being patient. Sometimes being patient pays off in the legislature.
Well, I just want to thank Governor Dayton and Commissioner for the hard work, and certainly on both sides, the House and Senate, both sides, both caucuses have really had a hand in this, and so many others out there. Early on in the session, I know we met with many of you that had a piece of this bill, whether it's the extension of the PSEO or some other aspect of it. And one person that Senator Olson and I have been very interested in the career and technical programs in our education system. And one of the people that comes to my mind as really igniting that interest in me was a person by the name of Jim Benson. And I don't know if many of you remember him, but he was the president of the Dunwoody Institute and School, and then he was the president of Stout State over in Wisconsin, and then ended up being the president of Bemidji State University. And his whole life was really dedicated toward a combination of education that was both academic as well as hands-on. And I think the goal for all of us as we work with trying to create an environment of good education across the state should be that. My personal feeling is that that's the way we're going to close the education gap. We need to have our students interested, and we need to have them apply that interest through hands-on learning. And when we do that, I think the outcome will be the education gap will be closed. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Senator Terry Bonoff, representing the Minnetonka-Plymouth area. I want to thank Senator Olson for her partnership, thank Commissioner Casilius also for her support. And I want to just point to a couple provisions that haven't been discussed yet this morning. One is we made an investment in a home visiting program for 18 months to 4 years old for early literacy. And I'm particularly proud of that and want to thank Representative Loon for her partnership with regard to that. And the other thing is when we passed the basic skills test requirement for teachers, we learned later there was an inadvertent problem, in particular with regard to immersion programs. The area that I represent, Minnetonka, would have had to lay off 18 native-speaking teachers if we had not fixed that in this bill. It took quite a bipartisan effort to come to agreement as to how we temporarily fix that, and I was quite proud that we were able to do that. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I'm Jennifer Loon, representing Eden Prairie in the Minnesota House, and I'd like to echo what Senator Bonhoeff has mentioned. There is represented here, and with great thanks to the governor and the commissioner and our outgoing Senate Chair, Senator Jen Olson, Chairman Garofalo, who's not here, and to Representative Mindy Greiling. You have represented a group of people from different sides of the political spectrum, but all committed to doing what's in the best interest of Minnesota's children. That's what's bringing us here today, and to continually raising the bar for excellence in our public education system. And I'm one of those that believes strongly that we need to start early. Early education is critical, especially in closing that achievement gap. And through this home visiting program to instill a love of books and learning and rich vocabulary in young children beginning as early as it's 18 months with this program, we're going to start closing that achievement gap, and we need to take step forwards like this every day as we work towards making sure that all of our children are educated and prepared for tomorrow's economy. I'm also very pleased that as we all embrace change and choice in public education for parents and students, those language immersion programs that are really a draw for many parents and students in our schools, that we are not disadvantaging them through our attempt to make sure all teachers are well prepared. native speaker fluency is difficult to come by, as many of our language immersion programs have told us. And so we're going to offer them an opportunity and a little more time to make sure all of those teachers can, again, raise and meet those bars of excellence that we are establishing. So I'm very proud to be part of this effort. It's a great signal, I hope, of things to come. We can accomplish things bipartisanly. I hope this will continue.
You want to talk about it as a student, the benefits of this bill?
I can.
Good. Extemporaneous speaking 101.
I really want to thank you. Joe actually told me I am a participant of the dual credit programs. I am currently bringing these programs to the hands of the families that need them. It was a difficult fight for a little bit, but I'm really glad with all the support behind me. And those who are not up here today, that I'm so proud of Minnesota. Being an immigrant to the country, I don't think I would have felt that I was a part of Minnesota in this way at all. And I know I'm speaking from the voices of the families that don't know they can even come up here. So I'm really proud. I've been working with the families and the schools, and that I'm just happy that now when I go out and talk to them, they know it's their students by 10th grade can really get a jump start on their college career. And I'm just so proud. I'm so thankful that this is a part of a benchmark in my life and a part of Minnesota history. Thank you.
Can we get your name, please?
Oh, my name is Bandao Lee, and if you would like me to spell that, I could meet you on the side. Yes. Thank you.
Probably all like to spell it.
Oh, but okay. Bandao, it's P-A-J-N-T-A-U-B-Lee. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maureen Ramirez with Growth and Justice. We're a state-based think tank working to make the economy more fair and more prosperous. We've worked on the PSEO expansion in this bill. We think that's really a smart investment for Minnesota students. We appreciate the bipartisan support that it got and are so pleased to be part of this expansion, the first time in over 20 years since the start of PSEO that's going to bring it to more students. Thank you.
Senator Olson just said, are you going to be speaking? I first want to thank Senator Olson for her leadership, as well as Chairman Garofalo, Representative Erickson, and then all of the committee members on the Democratic side as well. It was quite a good discussion that we had around this bill. There are several good provisions in there that are going to help us move our reforms. As you know, this past year we spent a lot of time looking at the 7-point plan, really trying to move that strategically. So the items in this plan help us to get at the early college, help us to get at the earlier literacy, and make a focus on those items that we believe are going to help push us forward. So the bipartisanship of the agreement was a wonderful way to end the session for us, and a little bit early, as I'm told, for education bills. So we're really excited. I just want to thank my team, Kevin McHenry and Darren Cordy, who are just amazing, and they're down here all the time working with everybody, trying to make sure that we find win-wins. So thanks so much, and thanks for your leadership, Governor.
You're just watching the bill signing from this morning on the education policy bill, and as you heard, it was crafted in a bipartisan manner and is one of the earlier education bills to be passed. Now, it changes the per pupil payment rate for schools whose students are reading proficiently by 3rd grade, and it also broadens the early college enrollment options for high school students. Now, following the bill signing, the governor also updated the media on the status of negotiations with the GOP and on the tax bill. We like to air the question and answer part of the news conference at this time.
So it's a one-time dealing with the resources that are available for this biennium, and it has my job's now tax credit. It provides for the upfront rebate of capital investments and expansion projects. It increases the angel investor credit. It does some other things that are really focused on here and now and job creation. So, that's the focus, and it doesn't rob from the financial future of the state in order to accomplish what it wants to do this year.
So does that mean no property tax freeze for businesses?
There's no property tax business reduction in our proposal because the tails on that are enormous. It'd be $145 million. Well, all of the tails are $145 million in the next biennium. This one's about half of that, about $72 million of tails in the next biennium, and until the completion of their proposal in 2026, so in 14 years, it would cost the state $2.3 billion in revenue. And that's just, just fundamentally unfair to future legislatures and governors, as well as the fact that it's all focused on business property tax relief. The last session, with the cuts in local government aid and the elimination of the homestead credit, homeowners have been socked with higher property taxes, renters, senior citizens, farmers, and businesses. They all deserving of property tax relief. So to single out one group, the business community, and ignore the equal needs of other areas of the state, I think is just ill-advised, and to set up something that I say that with those kind of future consequences is just not wise either. And our Commissioner of Revenue, Myron France, is going around the state now, and we'll have at the end of the year for the next legislature to consider a broad-based tax reform, and this property tax relief for all classes of Minnesotans will definitely be part of that equation. But do it one piece now, it's sort of, well, I'm not going to speculate on what the motive is, but it's just not well advised.
Do you have any meetings scheduled today with legislators?
I'm not aware of any, but I'm available to do so, and most of these meetings have been set up at short notice, so I need to get back and hear from the Speaker and the Senate Majority Leader and see what their preferences are.
Is it your sense that you're any closer to a deal, or are you just kind of exchanging? I mean, does it feel like you're getting somewhere close, or does it still just kind of feel out there?
Well, the problem is I think we've clarified our differences on the tax bill, and the problem is that they're very significant differences, and our version's not acceptable to them, and their version's not acceptable to us. So, I mean, I want to correct one thing that somebody else said yesterday about characterize my priority as the stadium. My priority is jobs. My number one priority from the beginning of this session has been jobs, and it's been consistently jobs. And the stadium bill would, provide up to, by some estimates, about 13,000 jobs. The bill that I proposed for the bonding would produce up to 17,000 jobs. So that's 30,000 jobs. So, divide that by half. That's still 15,000 Minnesotans who are not working now, who would be working a year from now if these two bills passed. So this isn't about Mark Dayton. This isn't about what my priority is jobs and other people's jobs, and that's what I think it should be the priority of the legislature, and that's why I think that the stadium bill deserves an up or down vote, and the bonding bill deserves an up and down vote. And if they want to do a tax bill up and down vote, fine. Let's have put everybody on the line, have up and down votes on the three remaining measures, and then everybody can go home.
Do you believe now that if you can't reach an agreement on the tax bill, that the votes on bonding and stadium might never happen? You
have to ask Senator Senjum and Speaker Zellers that question. That's for them to determine. So far, the position and what I read this morning was even more emphatic that there wouldn't be a vote on those unless they get a tax bill to their satisfaction. I mean, I think it's very misguided to hold the stadium bill and the bonding bill hostage to a tax bill that they want and that they essentially dictate. I mean, we can find somewhere in the middle there that doesn't violate our principles of not rating from the future of the next year's budget, next biennium's budget, and if we can work something out there, then fine. But even if we can't, the other two are hugely important for jobs, and so it'd be terrible loss for a lot of unemployed Minnesotans if they refuse to bring those two bills up.
Time for one more question. Governor, what's your sense of timing? Do you feel like a final deal is within days, or is it weeks away?
Well, they have until May 21st by the Constitution, and I'm fine with they only have a certain number of days left where they can be in session, so I don't know how they manage that. But I'm fine with their being around as long as necessary to complete work on these 3 bills. I mean, the point is not to, I understand the desire to get out in April, and I had no problem with that, but that's not the purpose of the exercise. The purpose of the exercise is to put Minnesotans back to work. The purpose of the exercise is to do what's right for Minnesota, and if that takes 2 days or 2 weeks, I'm fine either way. I'm not going anywhere. Okay? All right, thank you.
Again, you're watching a news conference from this morning centering on the education policy bill, but eventually navigating to the work that is left to be done this session, including negotiations on the tax bill. As you heard, the governor remains concerned with the business property tax freeze, which currently pays for itself in the out years by using budget reserves.